In a small village where the wind carried the scent of young rice and the sky stretched wide without the smoke of the city, there lived a boy named Raju. He was a sweet child, but playful, and most of all, he had never truly understood the value of time. Raju's mother, a hard-working woman with gentle eyes clouded by daily worries, would often sit by the window and gently remind him, "Don't sit idle, Raju. Do something. Study, tend the garden, help someone, but don't let time slip by for nothing." But like most children, Raju would just smile and run off to kick a ball or lie under the tree, letting his mother's words drift away with the breeze. One day, Ramu Chacha, the most diligent farmer in the village, stopped by where Raju was lounging. His hands were rough with years of work, his voice gravelly but sincere. "My boy, free time is a man's greatest enemy. If you don't use it to build, it will use you to destroy." Raju laughed. "But Chacha, I'm still a kid. Why rush? Let me play now. I'll work later." Chacha smiled. He knew his words might not bloom today, but one day they would take root when life began teaching Raju in its own way. A few weeks later, an unexpected event stirred the village. A wealthy merchant from the city visited, bringing with him a rare opportunity. He gathered all the children and said, "I will select a few of you to train and offer jobs to, but only those who know how to use their time and have a spirit for learning. Come back in 10 days and show me what you've learned." The children's eyes lit up like lamps. Each quickly chose something to pursue. One began painting, another gardening, one practiced singing, another took up carpentry. But Raju stayed the same. For the first 2 days, he simply yawned on the porch, thinking 10 days was more than enough. But by the 3rd day, he began noticing something. His friends were busy, focused, progressing. A strange feeling crept into his chest. Worry. Raju approached Mohan, a friend his age, who was deeply focused on a watercolor painting. "What are you doing, Mohan?" "I'm learning to paint. I've loved it since I was little. If I do well, maybe the merchant will choose me." Raju stood silent. He realized he hadn't learned anything, didn't know what to do, and the time left was quickly vanishing. Though he tried to catch up in the final days, it was too late to start from zero. The 10th day came. The children gathered in the village square. The old merchant welcomed them one by one, examining their work with a warm gaze. Mohan presented a painting of the village in the rainy season, not perfect, but full of feeling. Others brought hand-carved toys, simple songs, each one earning praise. When Raju's turn came, he simply lowered his head in silence. He had nothing to show, nothing but a late-blooming regret. "Why did you do nothing during these 10 days?" the merchant asked gently. "I wasted my time," Raju whispered, eyes brimming with tears. The merchant didn't scold, nor did he look disappointed. He simply said, "Free time is gold, child. If you drop it, one day you'll have to pay for it. But you still have a chance, as long as from today onward you never repeat this mistake." Those words were like the first flicker of light in the darkness. For the first time in his life, Raju understood. Doing nothing is a choice, and it's the worst one. Since the day of the selection, Raju was no longer the carefree boy lying under the shade of a tree. He had begun to observe the way Ramu Chacha carried water each morning without fail, the way Mohan carefully washed his paintbrushes, the way his mother folded the bedding with a reverence as if tidiness were a sacred act. "I've missed something all this time," Raju thought. He didn't have any particular skill yet, but at least he still had time, if he could learn to cherish it starting today. The next morning, Raju woke early. Very early. He went to the well, fetched water for his mother, and quietly asked her permission to visit Ramu Chacha. "Chacha, Could you teach me how to tend the garden?" Ramu Chacha looked at him with a thoughtful gaze. He said nothing, only nodded gently. And so each day from morning till noon, Raju learned to plant seeds, pull weeds, and trim leaves. At first he was clumsy. Seeds spilled, hands scratched, back aching. But instead of complaining, Raju smiled. "At least today, I'm not sitting idle." In the afternoons, he stopped by Mohan's house to borrow books on painting, not because he wanted to become an artist, but because he wanted to understand how hard his friend had worked to reach where he was. Each page was a new world, and for the first time, Raju felt his heart open. In the evenings, when the village was wrapped in the sound of crickets and the breeze of night, Raju sat beside the oil lamp and wrote down everything he had learned that day. No one asked him to. He just wanted to remind himself, "Today, I used my time well." A week passed, then 2. Gradually, the villagers began to notice. Every time someone passed the garden, they'd see Raju crouched over, tending the soil. At the market, they saw him helping a vendor sell vegetables. No one realized this was the same boy the merchant had once rejected for knowing nothing, now becoming someone who learned everything with a grateful heart. One day, while sitting by the river, Raju turned to Mohan and asked, "Do you think I wasted my childhood?" Mohan smiled. "No. I think you just started truly living." Raju said nothing. The sunset painted the water in golden hues, and in his heart, a quiet peace began to grow. Not worry, but faith. Faith that, if yesterday I was still lost, then today, I've taken my first step. A month had passed since Raju began to change. He was no longer the sleepy, lazy boy from before. Now, every morning, the villagers had grown used to seeing him up early, barefoot, basket in hand, walking through the village while softly reciting something under his breath. Maybe a formula for compost, maybe the names of herbs. He was learning, not to be better than anyone else, but simply to stop wasting even a single breath of his life. One late afternoon, just after a gentle rain, the village received a new visitor. This time it wasn't a merchant, but a teacher from the city. His name was Master Arvind, and he had come to assess the village for a short-term skills training program for rural children. He had heard rumors of a few diligent young learners and was led by the village chief to meet some familiar faces: Mohan, Tara, and Raju. When it was Raju's turn, the teacher asked, "What would you like to share?" Raju looked at him, his hands still stained from the garden, but his eyes bright and clear. "I don't have much, sir. Only that every day I try to learn one new thing. Some days I fail, some days I don't understand. But I've never let myself sit idle again." Master Arvind didn't reply. He asked no further questions. But in his eyes, there was a quiet gleam, a silent respect that didn't need words. 3 days later, the list of selected students for the special training program was announced. Mohan was chosen for his talent in painting, Tara for her skill in handicrafts, and Raju was chosen for a rather unusual reason. Not assessed as having any standout talent, but showed consistent learning, inner discipline, and self-motivated effort. The whole village was surprised. Raju said nothing. He quietly thanked each person who had helped him over the past month, from Ramu Chacha to his mother to Mohan. He didn't jump in excitement. He didn't cry. He simply stood still, as if at last he had opened the door within himself. That night, as he packed his belongings to leave for the training center, his mother came into the room. She placed her hand gently on his head and said, "I'm not happy because you were chosen. I'm happy because you're no longer afraid to fail." Raju looked at her and smiled. He didn't say a word, because some truths don't need to be spoken. when we live fully, one day at a time, the world always answers. Many years had passed since the day Raju left the village to pursue vocational training. No one knew exactly what he did, where he went, or whom he met. But sometimes stories would trickle in of a young man invited to speak at a skills seminar in Delhi, of someone running a free training center for the children of farmers, of a man who once stood before the minister to speak about the value of time in the lives of the poor. The villagers weren't sure who it was until one day. On the outer wall of the village schoolyard, someone pinned up a poster. A young man, tall, bright-eyed, hair brushing his shoulders, was standing in a circle of smiling children. Across the poster read, "Awakening Time." Initiative. Founder, Raju Kumar. The whole village buzzed with excitement. Mohan, now an art teacher, stood looking at the poster for a long time. Ramu Chacha smiled and repeated an old line. That boy, he finally learned to treat time like gold. When Raju returned to the village, it was no longer the quiet place of his childhood. Children gathered around him, not for his fame, but for the story he carried with him. He spoke of how he failed his very first opportunity, of the nights he practiced speeches in front of a mirror, of the job rejections, and of quiet winter afternoons spent reading alone on train platforms. We don't need to be born with talent, Raju said, but we do need the habit of not letting time slip through our fingers. One child asked, "But what if we still like playing around? What if we're lazy sometimes?" Raju knelt down, gently touched the child's shoulder, and said softly, "Spring never forces a flower to bloom early. But one beautiful day, when you're ready, you'll bloom in full glory, and nothing will stop you." That evening, beneath the soft golden lights of the village courtyard, Raju gave one last message to the children. "I used to think I was the most useless person in the village, but today I know this. As long as you don't stay sitting forever in the dark, everyone will find their path eventually." The children clapped. The elders were misty-eyed, and in the distance, his mother stood quietly, wiping away her tears. This story has no ending, because the journey of one who values time is a journey that never truly ends.